Hello and welcome back, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. And as always, a special thank you to every single one of you who have become subscribers on Substack, Patreon, YouTube, or who have otherwise supported my work. I appreciate every single one of you. The U.S. China relations are once again heating up. The Trump administration has announced new export control rules that are designed to block Chinese companies from accessing advanced American technology, especially in the semiconductor sector. Likely, the United States has already forgotten that it desperately needs critical minerals that it imports from China, and that China may choose to limit them in response to Washington's renewed ambitions to add more oil to the trade war fire. This week, the United States Commerce Department issued a new rule. If a company is listed on the U.S. Entity List, all of its subsidiaries are now automatically blacklisted as well. That means U.S. companies must now apply for a license to do business with any part of that group, and in most cases, it might be safe to assume those licenses will be denied. Until now, this was a loophole. You could technically sell to the subsidiary of a blacklisted Chinese company, like Huawei, for example, if that subsidiary was not named specifically on the U.S. Entity List. This allowed firms to use shell companies or complex ownership structures to bypass restrictions. Now the door is shut. The change might sound technical and boring, but it's actually a huge development. It is yet another escalation in the U.S. China trade war, and I would argue a big one. Thousands of subsidiaries will now be impacted. The United States effectively adjusted its entire export system by making the simple update to existing set of export rules. And this isn't just about policy, of course. This is about power. That's what this is about. The United States is trying to close off every route by which China might acquire advanced semiconductor technologies from the United States. From surveillance systems to missile guidance and everything in between, the concern in Washington is very clear. Don't let U.S. tech fuel the modernization of China as if China can't handle it on their own. But the joke actually might be on Washington if and when China decides to tighten its export controls of rare earth minerals, again, because it's already tried to do it before negotiations this summer. Washington may actually have to back off because it doesn't have a leeway. It needs imports of critical minerals from China. Perhaps it is not then too surprising that Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of War, just ordered to prepare for a possible military confrontation, for a possible military conflict with China by ramping up production of missiles. Beijing isn't taking this lightly either. China's Commerce Ministry called the new updated rule, quote, extremely malicious, and accused the United States of abusing the concept of national security. This is a very interesting accusation. Once again, China argues that Washington is using trade tools for political gain. Of course it is, while claiming that anything and everything is justified in terms of a national security concern. But in reality, Washington is making just another attempt to contain China, its peer competitor. And let's not forget the broader geopolitical context. This move comes just 1 month before President Trump is scheduled to meet with Chinese President Xi Jinping at the Asia-Pacific Economic Cooperation Summit in South Korea. It will be their first face-to-face meeting since 2019, and tensions are running high, as we can tell. In fact, the two leaders are also clashing over TikTok. Trump announced that he and Xi had agreed on a deal allowing TikTok to continue operating in the United States. Under the terms of last year's legislation, ByteDance, the Chinese parent company, was required by law in the United States to divest the app to avoid a nationwide ban. Well, Trump said that this new deal would see major U.S. investors step in, and the process is, quote, well on its way. But Beijing's version of the story is very different, believe it or not. Chinese state media only mentioned ongoing consultations, no confirmation, no final deal yet. China's ambassador to the United States said that any resolution must comply with Chinese law and market rules.
我要重申，中方在 TikTok 问题上的立场是清楚的。中国政府尊重企业意愿，乐见企业在符合市场规则基础上做好商业谈判，达成符合中国法律法规、利益平衡的解决方案。希望美方为中国企业到美国投资提供开放、公平、非歧视的营商环境。
And so that suggests that Beijing is keeping a veto in its back pocket, possibly. So we have two conflicting narratives here. It is typical. It happened before. It will probably happen again. Trump portrays himself as the final decision maker in this process, claiming that the deal is approved and close to being signed, while China, on the other hand, frames it as a private commercial negotiation, one that still depends on regulatory approval from Beijing. And with the divestment deadline now actually being extended to December, many analysts say that this is more about political optics and posturing than actual outcomes. Now, back to the broader export controls. Experts are watching closely to see how strictly the new rules will be enforced. While the Trump administration is cracking down on some companies, it's also freezing actions against other companies. For example, Chinese memory chip maker Tianjin Memory was expected to be added to the entity list, to the blocked entity list, but the Commerce Department reportedly held off to avoid derailing U.S. China trade talks and the upcoming Xi Jinping-Trump meeting. The United States wants to slow China's access to cutting-edge chips, but it is afraid that China might act in kind and actually proceed by limiting exports of what the United States needs the most: critical minerals. China wants to develop domestic alternatives and reduce reliance on foreign suppliers, and both sides are preparing for a long-term confrontation, technological, economic, and possibly even strategic. This week, it has become clear that the competition for technological supremacy between the United States and China has entered a new phase. The question now is whether diplomacy can keep pace with disruption and whether these rising tensions can be managed before they spiral out of control. Let me know what you think about the ongoing U.S.-China trade war and the tensions. I would love to hear your thoughts. And also let me know in the comments, what do you expect from the upcoming Trump-Xi Jinping meeting in South Korea? I would love to hear from you. Thanks so much for joining me today. I hope that you consider supporting my work and supporting my channel. Become a subscriber on YouTube, on Substack, Patreon. I would love to see you on my alternative social media platforms. You'll find them linked in the description below. Have a wonderful rest of your day. Take care.